Good morning, friends. I'm Motorcycle Pastor, and I want to welcome you to the place where we rise with the Lord, where we rely upon His holy word each and every day of our lives. Today we're opening up our Bibles to 1 Corinthians 15:48, where it's written, "As is the man of heaven, so also are those who are of heaven." To help us understand God's holy word for us this morning, we're using Charles Spurgeon's Morning by Morning. Here's what Charles writes. "A herd and members are of one, the head and members are of one nature, and not like that monstrous image that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream. The head was of fine gold, but the belly and thighs were of brass, the legs of iron, and the feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Christ's mystical body is no absurd combination of opposites. The members were mortal, and therefore Jesus died. The glorified head is immortal, and therefore the body is immortal too. As the record states, because I live, you also will live. As is our loving head, so is his body, and every member in particular. A chosen head, therefore chosen members. An accepted head, therefore accepted members. A living head, therefore living members. If the head is pure gold, all the parts of the body are pure gold also. There is a double union of nature as a basis for the closest communion." Pause here, you devout reader, and see if you can contemplate the infinite condescension of the Son of God in exalting your wretchedness into blessed union with His glory without being overwhelmed by the wonder of it all. You are so feeble and poor that in remembering your mortality, you may say to decay, "You are my father," and to the worm, "You are my sister." And yet in Christ, you are so honored that you can say to the Almighty, "Abba, Father," and to the incarnate God, "You are my brother and my husband." Surely if relationship to ancient and noble families make men think highly of themselves, we have more cause to glory than all of them. Let the poorest and most despised believer take hold upon this privilege. Do not let an unthinking laziness prevent him from tracing his pedigree, and do not let him focus so much on the here and now that he fails to think profitably of the glorious heavenly honor of union with Christ. I don't know if you paused, if you thought as we heard it there, of exactly what it means to be accepted both as we are, but to be made holy through Christ. I loved the imagery that he used here, going all the way back to Nebuchadnezzar, this idea that we are one and the same, and looking back and saying, wow, in this dream, here I was building it, but it was all mismatched opposites. And yet God makes us one. I love the imagery that Spurgeon used. And yet there is that idea of opposites. We come wretched, like he says. We come filthy. And it is God who transforms you and me. God changes us. You know what man's been trying to do since the very dawn, when they tried to turn lead into gold, and we know that's impossible. You can't. And yet our miraculous God does the impossible. He takes the lead of our lives, our brokenness, our wretchedness, our sinfulness, which may be dense, may be soft. You don't know gold's pretty soft. And yet he purifies it, but goes beyond removing impurities. I mean, you can remove all the impurities from lead and you still have lead. He transforms it into something new. He makes it gold, so that it's not just like gold, heavy and soft, but it is gold and pure. That's what he does for you and me. Imagine that, brothers and sisters. If you're having trouble seeing your value, your worth, and you're saying, I'm worthless lead, I'm nothing, you're thinking too little of what God can do. He makes us the individuals worthy of heaven, not by what we do, because we can't get there. By his power, authority, and his grace abundant in our lives today. I want to invite you to think on that this day. Think on it throughout the day. Think on it as you go out and about. And then when you look at somebody else, and maybe you're having this moment where you're judging them more or less, again, we might think higher of somebody else, and that's wrong too. See them as equally worthy of God's love through him, not through what we do. Through him, because he made them in his image, and he had a plan for them. You don't get to know who's the elect, who's not the elect. You just have to worry about loving on your neighbors. Love God first, and love your neighbors as yourself. Go forth, brothers and sisters. Go into the world and live as the image of Christ until he makes you as Christ. I look forward to seeing you tonight and hearing all about, and you can drop it in the comments, what your plans are, what your hopes are for today, who you're going to meet. And then tonight when we gather back together, you can share exactly what that turned out like and the testimony that he gives you this day. This is Motorcycle Pastor saying, I'm looking forward to seeing you this evening.